As politicians gather to mark the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, I'm very pleased to say that we are joined by Lyra's sister, Nichola, to talk about her life and legacy. Good morning, Nichola.
Good morning, Trevor.
Lyra is being awarded a posthumous medal tomorrow. Can you tell us a bit about that, please?
So, the Chancellor of Queen's University Belfast, who is Hillary Clinton, she has been asked to give Lyra a medal, a Chancellor's medal, and it's for recognition for the civic services that Lyra was involved in during her lifetime here, and for the work that she did to try to encourage peace and greater inclusion in our society.
If I may say, Nichola, I understand this is not always the easiest conversation for somebody in your situation, so please take your time. Would you mind, for those viewers who are not completely familiar with the story, telling us what Lyra was doing and how she met her end?
Well, Lyra was an investigative journalist. She began her career in journalism when she was very young, when she was about 15. She was involved in a children's charity called Children's Express, where they work with young people from all different backgrounds, cross-community, and encourage them in the fields of the media. And it was journalism that Lyra found a love in. And so she wrote stories, became, Sky Young Journalist of the Year. And she was very interested in listening to the real-life stories of the people around her, the people in society, the people who weren't being heard and weren't being listened to, the working class people, victims of violence in our society, victims of suicide, their families. And she was interested in looking at those things, but she was also interested in looking at the division within our own country and looking at how quite often the political representatives are responsible for the continuance of that division by stoking up sectarianism and different things like that. So she was really trying to expose what was really happening for people. At the time of her death, she was investigating the disappearance of young boys who had gone missing during the Troubles here in Northern Ireland, and the police had obviously looked into it, but had not launched the investigation that perhaps they would have launched had it not been for the distraction of the Troubles, which of course you will know that people were being killed quite frequently, shot, there were bombings happening here, and so the resources within policing were being targeted towards trying to deal with that violence. And Lyra was very interested in the story of these boys because she wanted to be able to bring their families closure, because they had gone out to school in the morning and didn't come home that evening. No one ever saw them again once they were at the bus stop, and those boys and other young people like that have never ever been recovered, and we never hear those stories. Lyra was interested in the stories that we never get to hear about because nobody seems to want to tell those stories, and they were the people that she was interested in. At the time of her murder, she was in Derry, Londonderry. She had just moved there, and obviously she was still a journalist. And as you can see from some footage from the news at the time, that she was looking at the riot through the eyes of a journalist, and she would have been probably very interested in what would encourage young people to become involved in that kind of violence because she was so interested in the needs of the working class. We're working class people. We were brought up in a working class area. I still live in the same working class area, not too far from where Lyra was born. And she was interested in the story of our people because nobody was representing the working class people, and she was still doing it up until the day that she was killed, tragically.
Nichola, you've described eloquently, I think, the body of Lyra's work, and that's partly why she became the Young Journalist of the Year, and I think everybody who is in journalism will understand the quality of that work. But she's also, in some way, become, I think, iconic for young people, particularly in Northern Ireland, but also, I think, actually in the island of Ireland. What would you say she would be saying to a young person who might be interested in a career in journalism, but who has seen, if you like, the ultimate downside of her kind of desire to expose truth and the danger that some journalists encounter? What would she say to a young potential journalist now?
Well, I think that she would say, if you love it, then you must do it. Because I know that she loved it, and that was why she felt the need to do it. And I think that she would encourage other young people still to become involved. There is a bursary with the Centre for Investigative Journalism, the Lyra McKee bursary, and lots of young disadvantaged people have received training in journalism through that bursary. And some of the success stories emanating from that bursary in Lyra's name have been phenomenal. Young people getting stories published and picked up by big media agencies, and one of the graduates from the scheme actually started their own news platform to share the stories within their area. So I know that she would be absolutely behind any young person that wanted to get into journalism. I know from our history here in Northern Ireland and our life experience here is that someone coming out onto a street at a riot with a gun it's almost never happened. Almost never happened. It should never have happened, but it is a very, very unusual thing to have happened. I don't think people appreciate how unusual that was. You know, these kind of riots and disturbances are quite commonplace at different times of the year in our country, unfortunately. But someone coming out, a gunman coming out onto the street, is a very unusual occurrence during a riot of that nature. So I think that while Lyra was very, very mindful of the risks that she took as a journalist, she still took those risks because she still felt the need to tell other people's stories and to enable their voices to be heard through the work that she did.
Nichola, Sky will be following that award tomorrow, and I think everybody watching and everybody here at Sky will be with you in spirit on that, in the hope that out of such an awful, awful moment, something good will come, as you've just been describing. Nichola, thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Thanks for inviting me. Have a lovely day.